All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Darius Anucauskas, and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com. And today is Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 30th of July, 2025. Still, yes. Look, I wanted to pick up on the job market, the U.S. job market, because this week we have a bunch of data, not to mention other events that are happening. Look, I recently did a video on the central bank's decisions, the Fed and the BOC, which are coming out today, by the way. But I also wanted to pick up on the job numbers. Look, we have ADPs, which are coming out in a bit as I'm recording this. But before we jump into that action, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So yes, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and should not be considered as such. This material should not be taken as an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. I'll give you a few seconds to read the rest. I'm not going to disappear anywhere. So yeah, basically, yesterday we had the JOLTs numbers. Today we're having the ADP, and on Friday we're going to have the NFP figures. Look. Also, just a quick mentioning of our Markets.com website, which you can always check out for more information about us. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist. Basically, you can see my face there on the screen on the website because tomorrow I'm holding a webinar, which you can always join into. Check it out. It's the description. The link is in the description of this video. So, hey, if you can make it, that would be wonderful. We're going to talk about I'll be talking about the different sectors that could benefit in a way from a market turnaround. So, again, we know that the markets right now are near all-time highs. But after kind of reaching the all-time high, we saw them retracing a little bit. But hey, still the momentum to the upside is still there. However, we have our reservations as whatever comes up must come down eventually. So, and the most important, to be prepared. Look, quickly into the economic calendar. We have around 50 seconds left. I'm just going to open up the dollar here, and we have around around 30 seconds left until the ADP comes out, and I want to see if there's going to be a reaction in the US dollar. The current forecast right now is on the higher side, but let's not forget that last time we came out at minus 33K. And that was the first time since 2021 or something like that. Let me just launch the chart here very quickly. Just let's jump into this monthly. Yes. So last time we saw the number dropping into negative territory was back in July 2020, ladies and gentlemen. Right. So the number come out for 3 seconds. Let's have a look. What will be the actual figure? I hope it's going to be somewhere above the previous number, but still below the forecast. So let's see if that's going to be the case. Let's refresh the number. Right, okay, 104K, much higher than much higher than the previous, and much higher than the forecast. So, right, ladies and gentlemen, in that case, we have ourselves a positive move here on the US dollar, on DXY. We're seeing a nice spike here. In general, look, I talked about DXY in general. I'll talk a lot about this in my Markets Talk webinar, which I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So this morning I already did one, so you can check it out. It's going to be it's on our channel. But basically, I talked about the US dollar here, and I said that look, we're probably we're probably in this inverted head and shoulders pattern here, and again, it's a potential idea. I talked about this idea last week as well when we were still here somewhere, and I said, look, keep your eyes on this area, because if this is going to hold, we might see a reversal back up. And now we're kind of breaking again the neckline. So I'm currently leaning towards the upside as long as we stay above the 98.65 territory. But I'm leaning towards the 100-day EMA here, and I'm looking at the daily chart, by the way. So I'm going to aim for the 100-day EMA. It's currently on my chart around 99.70 zone, but in general, look, if it's going to hit this, might as well hit the psychological 100 level. So let's see if we can travel back to the 100 level. It would be quite interesting. But yeah, ADP. Look, where's that number? Lost it again. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. So the US ADP number came out, yes, as I said, 104K. Look, in general, if we look at the JOLTs numbers yesterday, those came out on the lower side, so not a very good result. ADP comes out on the much higher side. So as I've mentioned this before and several times, and I'll repeat myself, and you probably know this yourselves, that do not try to gauge ADP to NFP. So on Friday, we're having the NFP, which is expected to come out a little bit on the lower side. So again, I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to try to maybe predict too much. But in general, my problem here with all these numbers is that, let me just open the chart of NFP, this right here, look at this. So, okay, we are ignoring this massive drop that happened during COVID, and this is when COVID started, then we kind of reversed sharply, okay, all good. But what I'm trying to say here is that, look at this trajectory in general. After we kind of, recovered from this December 20 moment here, we pushed higher. We almost went back to 1 million here, and it was very close, 1 million jobs created. So, but since then, since kind of mid 2021, we have been on a gradual decline, and in a way, it's showing us that the new norm is basically around the 150s right now. If it's, let's say, if we're talking about 2022, then the norm is around like 400. If we're talking about 2023 here, then we're talking about a norm which is around 200, something like that. And now we're in this 2024 again. Now it's kind of dropping. It's like the norm is somewhere around 170, and going into 2025, the new norm is around 150. So you see the diminishing a moment here. And look, I would say you need to be careful. It could be telling us something that, less jobs are created. Of course, somebody might say, but hey, what about, let's say, unemployment rate, right? So this is the US unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate since kind of after mid 2022, it started gradually ticking to the upside. So you have yourselves a situation where unemployment rate is gradually ticking back up here. Of course, don't get me wrong, it's not a huge difference here, like going, not a major threat still, going like say from 3.6 to 4.1 or something. That's still moderate, that's still okay. But in general, what you're seeing is that you're getting slightly higher unemployment, but then you're at the same time you're getting a drop in NFPs. So that's where the kind of the interesting bit for me comes in, like, is the market telling us something? Or, oh, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be the pessimist here, but in general, as I said before, what comes up must come down eventually. So we're getting into these more maybe troubling moments, although the stock market is not really troubled. It seems like that. The stock market, on the contrary, seems to be quite strong. Let me just have a look at the cash index here on the Dow here. Dow, beautiful reversal here near this upside line taken from the lowest point of April. The S&P 500 also still somewhat elevated. Nasdaq continues to fight here despite yesterday's decline. So yesterday's decline, yeah, it was a bit of a bummer. I think it was a little bit of profit taking, after we hit the all-time highs. So I think that, the market is kind of trying to take some profits before the Federal Reserve interest rate decision tonight, which it's going to be quite an interesting one. But okay, sorry, not the decision itself, but the press conference. I think that's where the interesting bit could come in. So we'll keep an eye on that one. If you want more details on that, I did a video recently, so today actually, on the central banks, on the BOC and Fed central banks. So yes, hey, check it out. Look, long story short, for now, the fact that we had jolts to the downside, ADP to the upside, now we're kind of, I would say we're back to square one. We're trying to understand what could happen with the NFP. Probably would have been easier if we would see jolts lower, and ADP lower, and there we go. We could think that, hey, you know what, NFP could come out on the lower side as well. But well, it's unclear. It's still, again, as always, it's still a coin toss, and I keep on saying to everybody, wait for the numbers to come out, and then you can do something about it if you're comfortable with it. Because don't try to feel pressured, or that, oh, I need to jump into the market and take advantage of the move. Because if you missed the initial move, don't worry, the move will come. There will be a move later. There will be a move the next day, probably. So maybe not later, but probably the next day, for sure we could see some interesting moves. So if you're thinking that you might have missed the action or something, don't worry. Honestly, I rather keep an eye on the data that comes out, let the market kind of move around a little bit, get rid of the noise, and then we can establish the real direction. So look, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, I hope this video helped you somehow. Oh, by the way, Forex, I wanted to very quickly to pick up on Forex. Look, the dollar right now is taking, is strengthening, and I think it could remain like this for now, if we feel that the Fed or Jerome Powell will sound in favor of the US dollar, or let's say in favor of pausing not going for more cuts, let's say like this. However, I do understand that he's pressured, because again, 17th of September, that's when we're going to get the next interest rate decision, and hey, we're expecting a cut then. So maybe, just maybe, that's just theory, that the US dollar could strengthen kind of more up and throughout August, thinking that, if we're going to get a cut, we're going to drop again. So that's where the issue arises here. So maybe we could see AUD USD, to the downside, USD JPY to the upside, USD CAD a little bit more to the upside, USD CHF a little bit more to the upside. So again, Euro USD could be, going further south. At the moment, it's very bearish. So we could see this strength kicking into the US dollar throughout August, before September's meeting, just because, like I said, if we are expecting a cut in September, that would be a little bit less favorable for the US dollar. And this is when maybe the selling could happen. Again, theory, trying to approach this from a kind of logical perspective. So let's see if this is going to work out or not. Ladies and gentlemen, and now it's a wrap. Saying thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found it useful, and I shall see you next time in my next little video update. Bye for now.